Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us today. My name is Tracy Cook, and I'm the online media manager for ModernAnalyst.com, the premier community for business analysts. I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar entitled How BAs Can Use Technology to Implement a Continuous Improvement Plan. Today's featured speaker is Eric Werman, Best Practices Consultant, QuickBase. Eric is a consultant for QuickBase. He has spent 15 years of professional IT expertise across areas including software development, project management, data management, and application governance. He is focused on providing guidance for data and application architecture strategies and projects as they relate to no-code and low-code software development. Eric assists customers with establishing technology and governance best practices through professional services, work, continued education, and enthusiasm for continuous improvement. Eric has a master's degree in information management, as well as certifications across many facets of the IT industry. Today's webinar will last approximately 60 minutes, including the Q&A session at the end of the presentation. Please be sure to submit your questions in advance using the questions feature of the GoToWebinar software. We would like to thank our sponsor today, QuickBase, for sponsoring today's webinar. And with that, Eric, welcome.
Thank you, Tracy, for the intro. I've got a slide up here with a little bit about myself. I'm based on the West Coast. I've been an IT enthusiast my entire life. I started coding when I was 10 years old in an old IBM XT machine with a green monochrome monitor, if that gives any of you any context. So I'm happy to be here with you today, and I sincerely hope that each of you were able to get some value out of this presentation. So let's go over the agenda. I'm going to talk about continuous improvement, business analysis, and QuickBase, and how they all fit together. Then I'm going to give you some more information about the QuickBase platform. After that, we're going to run through an example business case, and I'll demonstrate an application solution for that business case. Then I'll open up the floor for questions. So what is continuous improvement? The definition of continuous improvement that I like is the repeated modification of the way we do things. Each modification moving the organization closer to its improvement goals, whatever those may be. So this concept originated with W. Edward Deming and the Plan, Do, Check, Act cycle. I've got a picture of that PDCA cycle up here on the slide. And while there are different verbs or actions that can be put into these boxes, the important part is that it's cyclical, never ending. Deming's idea really was, let's focus on the continual improvement of a process instead of worrying about cutting costs. So in other words, instead of trying to get the same work done with one less person in the same time, in the same way, which we all know really just means work faster, instead, let's look at how we do the work and see if we can do the work smarter so we can work at the same speed and still get that work done with less resources. Other terms that have a similar meaning to continuous improvement include operational excellence, business process management, process excellence, and process improvement. So within the realm of continuous improvement, there are many methodologies or ways to achieve success. There are methods that favor slow incremental improvements, and there are methods that favor doing more upfront analysis, which result in larger breakthrough type changes. What is true about all these models is that to have success with them, you need creativity and innovation spawned by the right leadership, involvement from the team, an open funnel for responding to feedback, and enabling technology. Improvement is hard work. We need a method and a process to make sustainable change happen. One of the methodologies for continuous improvement is Kaizen, which originated from Toyota's competitive success in Japan. Kaizen is a culture that involves using a personal ingenuity to identify and solve problems in an organization. It focuses on many small improvements that are typically low risk, with the idea that implementing many of these small improvements will add up to a large positive change. Also, this approach is often the best way for an organization to get started with a continuous improvement culture. As you can see from the definitions on the screen and the highlighted text, continuous improvement projects are focused around creating value for the business, even with these small incremental improvements. When you think about the practice of business analysis, you know that BAs work to enable change in the enterprise by defining needs and recommending solutions that deliver value to stakeholders. There are major synergies between continuous improvement methodology and the practice of business analysis, with the underlying thread of creating and delivering value. Your ability to work in detail and your skills of process modeling and analysis are crucial to establishing a stable process to start the PDCA cycle. Remember that plan, do, check, act I showed a couple slides ago. So once this process has been analyzed, modeled, and it's possible to objectively measure the performance, continuous improvement of that process becomes possible. This is how you create value. So in short, continuous improvement needs your skills. If there are talented business analysts like you within your organization, you have a head start on building a team with the necessary skills to implement continuous improvement. By establishing or enhancing your culture of continuous improvement with an innovative technology platform, you can take a cost-effective, low-risk, phased approach where you start small and expand as you learn, connecting processes, data, and people across your organization to drive impactful business results. QuickBase is the perfect tool for BAs to implement continuous improvement concepts. QuickBase lets you turn your ideas of how to improve a business problem or inefficient process into a working cloud application without the need for a pro developer. You're able to take a cyclical approach in which you start small by creating rapid prototypes that make an impact, that eventually become larger wins in the spirit of Kaizen. With QuickBase, you can meet the needs and requirements of your business partners without using IT resources. You can modify your app instantly as you uncover the needs of your stakeholders and the business. By embracing a continuous improvement mindset, you can start delivering more business value, solve more problems, and see the results of your business analysis come to life through QuickBase. So what is QuickBase? In short, it's a platform for building business applications in a rapid fashion. It's 100% cloud-based. It runs on a specialized data center architecture that is congruent with low-code and no-code app building. This means that we designed it for things like fast schema changes and on-the-fly computations. And we can do this because we are an in-memory database, meaning that your data lives on memory chips instead of disks or solid-state drives. This design allows QuickBase to offer faster response times than our competitors that use a hard disk architecture. QuickBase's platform is recognized as a market leader by the top global research firms like Gartner and Forrester. So what do you do with QuickBase? QuickBase is literally an open platform. You start with nothing and you create a solution that is customized for your business. If there are any gamers in the audience, I sometimes relate QuickBase to playing Minecraft. The game has no specific goals, but requires creativity and experimentation. That's what business analysts can do with a no-code platform like QuickBase. They can try things because they are in an open-ended environment that doesn't take a coordinated effort of a team to create something new. It just takes a little time, some inspiration, and an understanding of the processes and needs of your business. If you take a look at the statement on the screen, you can see that 55% of the apps built by business professionals on our platform are moved from inception to deployment within 2 weeks. So I also have some bullet points up here that can kind of get your mind going about what applications, kind of applications that our users build, but really the sky's the limit. So outside of our secret sauce of tables and fields, these are the core features of QuickBase platform. Each individually make it easy to turn your ideas into something tangible. And they all come together to create functioning applications. Our forms are used for collecting data. The QuickBase fields are bound to these form elements, so there's no need to associate them like you have to do in many of the low-code platforms on the market. Report building is done through an intuitive UI that makes it fast and simple. We use roles as a method for managing user experience and security. Dashboards, which give you easy access to the reports you need to make decisions on, can be rebuilt in minutes. We have automations that allow users to automate tasks in the platform. And QuickBase offers a mobile app that works with any QuickBase application without any additional setup or configuration. So QuickBase really becomes powerful when it's part of your ecosystem strategy. You can access information from all of your key systems in one place and make it easy to perform the analysis you may need. QuickBase offers a variety of ways to integrate data and automate processes. So, how exactly do you connect to those different systems and access the data sets you need? Our software offers a sync service that many customers utilize for a flat file sync. We have a graphical user interface for building and configuring automation workflows. And for those of you that don't have access to every system in your company, we offer a REST API that allows your technical partners to build custom integrations with the tools that they administrate. Okay, so now hopefully I've convinced you that QuickBase is a tool that could potentially provide you some value. So I'm going to run through a demonstration of how a business analyst might use QuickBase to achieve a process improvement initiative. Okay, so you are a business process analyst assigned to the HR department. The HR department is having problems with the HR department inbox and wants a solution to help with the process for responding to incoming requests. You are helping your partners in HR identify their business need and understand the requirements for the solution that they need to deliver. So currently, the HR department handles requests by managing a mailbox with the address of hr@company.com. The department has a manual internal process for managing the queue. When a request comes in, the employee in that department have access to the mailbox and can see the incoming request. If the employee identifies the request as part of their function of responsibility and they choose to work on the request, they move it to a pending subfolder. When they complete the request, they move it to a done subfolder, and then they email the requester that asked for something to get done. In your conversations with the HR department, you identify the requirements for the new solution, and some of those requirements are: you need to have a real-time status of the request. You need to have a way to assign the request to a certain specific function within the HR department. We need information radiators or reports to help understand the metrics. And we need a way to know when the request was completed. So they're looking for an automated solution that takes out the manual aspect of moving the email to the pending subfolder and then to the done subfolder. So you mapped out the old process, and that's what I've got here up on the screen. And you can tell that there are definitely some steps that could be automated. So now, next we map out a new potential process that meets the requirements. This new process could be developed into a solution that stores the function assignments in the application and then sends a notification email to the staff member or members that should see the request based on the function that the requester picks. This is better than constantly checking the inbox for new requests that might or might not pertain to each staff member. So QuickBase is the perfect tool to automate most of this workflow, increase visibility, and improve communication. While this process is important for your stakeholders and a solution is needed to fix the problem, it would not be considered mission critical to be developed by your IT org. However, if we perform some quick ROI analysis on this, we can see there is value in this initiative. It's pretty clear that's worth doing, but we don't need to commit too much of developer time to the work. As a BA, you know the requirements and understand the old and new processes better than anyone else. You can develop a solution on your own that A, meets the needs of your HR stakeholders directly and gets them a solution faster, and B, doesn't take up valuable development time. In the vein of continuous improvement, you as a BA can quickly produce a prototype that meets the needs of your HR stakeholders with QuickBase. By modeling, prototyping, refining, and repeating this process until you have the ideal solution for your HR team, you can turn your business analysis into action by implementing a continuous improvement methodology. So let's take a look at how we would start solving this problem in QuickBase. I'm going to roll my screen to a web browser now. Okay, so we're going to start with a basic data model so that we have a plan for our application. Data models can be built in a variety of ways. I'm just using a web-based program for my model. So I'm guessing that at least a few of you have seen something like this before, but I'll take a few minutes to run through it. What we're looking at is the entities for the proposed application. These are the things that we want to track. We want to track HR requests, so we have an entity for that. We also want to track which HR staff members belong to which function, so we also have a functions entity. So what do you want to know about each request? These are going to be our fields. We want to know who made the request, what their email address and phone number are so we can contact them. We need to know what they want to have happen, so we create a description field for that. We have a requirement to know which staff member gets assigned to which request, so we'll need a field for that. Last thing I want to track is the date the request gets completed, so we need a field for that. On our functions table, all we need is a field for the name and a field for the staff members that we want to associate with each domain. So some of you out there with a little bit of database experience might be saying, wait, you can't put many users into a single field. But QuickBase actually has some special field types, and one of them allows you to create a list of users and store them in a single field, and I'll demonstrate that a little bit later. So last thing we need to do is relate these tables. We want to be able to pick a function while filling out the request. That means that each function can be related to many requests. So the functions table is our parent, and the HR request table is our child, and that's what we have represented here. So now that we've got a plan, let's create a QuickBase application. I'm going to roll my other tab here where I've got my QuickBase home screen up. And this is called the My App page. This is the page you get when you first log into the system. Any applications that I'm part of would be listed here. I've got one for maintenance purchase orders, but we're going to go ahead and create a new application. So I've got a button right here for Create New App. And within QuickBase, we've got a few different ways to get you started. We can guide you through building an application. If you've used QuickBase before, you're comfortable with the UI, you can start from scratch. Or if you've got a data table and a set of fields all ready to go, you can actually import that and create a table with your data set. We've actually got a fourth, newer way to build applications that's more visual, like your data modeler, and that's what we're going to use today. So I'm going to click this, try Visual Builder. All right, so the Visual Builder comes up, and really what you get is a screen that looks very similar to our data model. To get started, I need to give the application a name. And over here on my left, I've got the different things that I can drag on and start building my application with. So the first thing I need is a table. And I'm going to flip back to my data model planner to remind myself what I've got going. So I need a table for HR requests, and I need this 6 fields. I need a table for functions in these 2 fields and the relationship between the 2. So I'll go and replicate that in QuickBase. So I've got my table. I'm going to give that a name. and now I'm going to add some fields to that. A few different ways to add fields. I can drag a field from the left here onto my table, and I'll demonstrate that now. Okay, this is our first field, and that's going to be our employee name. Next field we want to add is the employee phone number. We'll bring a phone number field over for that. We'll call this employee phone. We also want the employee email address, so we'll drag over an email address field and call that employee email. And the other fields we need were a description. That's a text field. The assigned to field, which is going to be a user field. And the last field we need is date closed. I'll roll to my date section fields, and I actually want to use a time stamp. I want to know that the date and the time of day. All right, next we need to create my functions table. So I'm going to scroll back to the top and drag another table out here. We'll name this functions. We need a field for the name of each function. And we'll go find that user list field that I mentioned earlier. And this is going to be our field for our staff members that belong to each function. Last thing I'm going to do is create the relationship between the two. To create a relationship, I grab this little icon right here and I drag it over. It asks me how I want the relationship to work. I want the function table to be the parent and the HR request to be the child, so I'll select this box here and create relationship. All right, now what we really got is a model that's very similar to the data model we had on our plan. All you do now is click this Create App button, and QuickBase will generate an application for us. Okay, so we now have a new application. We've got a couple tables up here. This would be our dashboard. Our dashboard's blank right now, but we do have the ability to customize this. I'm going to start with navigating to the HR request table. All right, and this is blank as well because we have got no data in this table yet. But let's see what happens if we try to add a new HR request. All right, what QuickBase actually is, it actually built a form for us ready to go so our employees can actually do the data entry. But this isn't super clean, so I'm going to add I'm going to clean this up a little bit to make it more, make it a little more appealing. I'm going to add a section for employee info. I'm going to add a section for request info. I'm going to have the function they picked as the first field on my list here, and we don't need to know about the staff members on this table or on this form, so I'll remove that. I'll go ahead and save those changes, and now my form looks a little prettier. And if I looked at my functions, I noticed that they're blank. I don't have my different departments, my sub-departments for HR listed here. If I navigate to my functions table, that's because we haven't done the data entry yet. So let's go ahead and key in those functions. So compensation and benefits, it's one. Compliance is another. If I go back to the table homepage, I can see that I've got a default report that's built with some of these on here. Instead of adding these functions one by one with this add new function button, I'm going to do what's called grid edit, and this gives me more of an Excel-like feel, so I can copy paste my other functions directly into this report. All right, so now I've got my 6 functions named here. I go back to my HR request, and I act like I'm going to add a new one. I can see that I can actually pick my different functions from my list here. So next thing we want to think about is the roles for our application. If I roll back to our data model here, if you remember from our analysis work and our process model, we looked at if we add QuickBase to our solution, we've got 2 other staff-based roles that we need to worry about, and that's our HR employees and our requesters. So these become our roles in the application. I'm going to navigate to users and our manage roles. All QuickBase applications come with 3 default roles. I'm going to go ahead and delete one of these and modify the other 2 so that we've got the roles that we need or that we want for this app. Okay. So we don't have any data in here. So what I'm going to actually do next is import some request data. So we've got some data to work with for building some reports. We've got a data import export section in QuickBase. I can navigate to that right here. And I want to paste the data in from my clipboard. I'm going to bring it in copy paste style. One sec to pull that up. All right, so I've copied my data. I'll paste it in here. All right, so now I've got some data to work with, some request data to work with. All these requests have been closed previous to today. And what I want to do now is build some reports. That was part of our requirement, was to build some reports for the HR staff members. So I need, first report I'm going to build is a report that shows the number of requests that were closed per week. And that's going to be, I'm going to do that as a bar chart. So I pick a chart for my style of report and create. And I can pick my type of report, which is going to be a bar chart. My x-axis category, my category going this way is going to be the date that it was closed. I'm going to group those by week. And then in my X category, I just want to track the number of requests. Scroll back up and give this a name. All right, now I've got a nice bar chart that shows the number of requests closed per week. We closed 2 last week, and we closed 3 so far this week. So let's build another report. I wanted to see the breakup of requests by function. I think I might want to use a pie chart for that. So I'm going to go Reports, New, pick a chart style again. Now for my chart style, I'm going to pick a pie chart. my series is going to be my functions, and we just want to count the number of requests. Give this a name. Now we've got a nice pie chart that shows the breakup of our requests. Oh, another requirement was we needed to notify the staff members when a new request comes in. We do have a notifications section or feature in QuickBase. So to navigate to that, I'm going to go to my HR table, go to Settings, Notifications, and now I can create a new notification that goes to the users listed in the staff members field, and do this whenever a new HR request is added. So now whenever a new request is added, if any staff member that belongs to that particular function will get the request, but not everyone will get it. All right, so now let's take a look at our dashboard. Our dashboard's blank. We want to spruce this up a little bit. So I'm going to go customize this page. And what I think I want to do is I want to drag down those reports that we created and have those reports visible on the dashboard. So I'm going to drag down my report widget, and I can go ahead and pick the report that I created. The first one, number of requests closed per week. And you know what, let me put the other report right next to that. So I'll drag that over here and pick request by function report. And there we go. All right, so now when my HR staff comes in, they can, they've got some metrics to kind of show what's been happening with their requests. But this isn't necessarily the experience that we want for the requesters when they come into the app. We want them to have a different experience. So we've created a different role for them, but let's give them a different dashboard. So I go to Dashboards, I go Settings, Pages, and I actually create what's called a new home page. I'm going to give this a name. It's going to be our Requestor Dashboard. And I think all they need is a simple button so they know how to, for creating a request. So I'm going to drag down a button bar, and I want a button for a new record, a new HR request record. Save that. And if you wanted to take a look at, view it. All right, I think this is what we want. It's pretty simple. And now we need to assign this dashboard to our requester role. So I'll navigate back to roles, which we were in a little bit earlier. I'll go to our, oops, looks like I misspelled that, so I'll fix that while I'm in here. Requester role. And if we go to the user interface, if I go to the user interface tab, I can see that my role homepage is that default dashboard, but what I actually want is that requester dashboard that we just created. So I'll select that. And also I want to hide those tables that show across the top of the navigation bar when you're in the application. So for the requester role, I'm going to hide the tables. All right, so I've set up an experience that's different than our HR staff experience, but I'm actually in the HR staff role in this application. So how do I test that functionality? We can do that pretty easily. If I drag down under my login name here, I've got an option for test this as. I can pick either test by role or specific users that have been invited to the application. So I'll stick with role, and I will pick, I want to test as this requester role. So now when I go to my home page, in this role, you can see that the tables have gone away from the top of the bar here, making this a little bit cleaner. And all I've got here is my new HR request button, where I can enter my data for a new request. So at this point, we have a working application. You would probably invite a few users into beta test, and if it were well received, you would create a deployment plan. So now I'm going to demonstrate how you might use QuickBase to carry out continuous improvement. So after deploying, you get some feedback that the user experience for the requester would be better if they could pick their name from a list like they do in some of the other corporate software systems. And that way they didn't have to key in their name, phone, and email address. So you check with IT about the possibility of data feeds, and they tell you that what they can do is they can deliver you a nightly CSV file with the current employee list, including the email and phone number fields. You verify that a nightly update will satisfy the request with the HR staff. They say, yep, that'll work, and now we get to work. So what we're going to do is we want to bring in that employee data as a new table. So to do that, I'm going to click my New Table button here, and I actually want to bring this in using our connected data service. Give this table a name, and I want to pick my data source. I'm going to use an SFTP connection that I've got already set up. So I have an employee's data set that I'm going to bring in. And what's happening now is QuickBase has read the CSV file, and it's read that I've got 4 fields that are on that file, and I want to go ahead and bring all those fields over to my new table. If I wanted to limit which employees brought in, like I only wanted to bring in a certain department, I could actually filter that list here with some kind of logic. And I want to set a refresh key. I want to set a primary key that we refresh on, and that's going to be our unique identifier. That's going to be our employee ID here. And we want to update this once a day, because that's how often we're getting a data feed. So it wouldn't make sense to update it every hour if IT is only giving us the feed once a day. And then it can email me if there's any problems with this. And I'm done. So QuickBase now is going to go ahead and generate the table schema and import the data. All right, there we go. So now we've got a employee list here. So our next step is we want to relate this data to our requests. So we're actually picking from this data set instead of typing the data in. Okay, so to create a relationship, I'm going to go to our table relationship section and click New Relationship. And I want to relate this new employees table to our HR request table that we already created. And one employee can belong to many requests, so I'll pick this option here. And I do want to be able to look up some information from the employee table on the HR request. So it's already given me the name, but I also want the phone number and the email address. Now I can go ahead and create this relationship. All right. And now the last part I need to do is I need to go back to that HR request table and clean it up. I need to get rid of those fields that we originally created, those text entry fields for entering the data, and replace those on the form with the new fields we brought in. So I'm going to select these 3 fields that we created using the visual builder, and I'm going to delete these. And I'm going to navigate back to my form. And you can see that it already added these new fields from the employee table down at the bottom of my form. But I'm going to bring these up to where the old fields were. Save that. So let's go in now. We can test as that requester role. And now when I fill out a new HR request, I can actually pick my name from the list, and my phone and email address will come along with it. So now we're all set. So this was an example of building a QuickBase application, then applying a continuous improvement process to analyze, build a prototype, and then improve on that design and continue iterations based on user feedback. So now, after speaking to your stakeholders, the app is complete, ready to go. You might be ready to. This might be acceptable for your users. And really, I built this application in about 20 minutes. So that's kind of the power of QuickBase is taking this idea and building it into something tangible in a really rapid fashion. So that's the end of our presentation. I want to open up the floor for questions, but I'm going to pull up another slide with a list of resources that will be on the screen while I answer those questions. And now I'm going to go ahead and throw it back to Tracy to grab those questions for me.
Thank you, Eric. And now we're going to begin answering the questions submitted during today's presentation. As a reminder, you can still submit questions through the questions pane of your attendee control panel. Eric, our first question, you mentioned an automations feature in the presentation. How does that work?
Yeah, so QuickBase Automations allows you to reduce repetitive steps. You can streamline manual processes, ensure your data is clean. So really what automations is a set of rules that you define to automatically perform actions. And each automation has a trigger. There's two types of triggers. You can trigger it when data changes, so like when you add or update or change a record, or you can schedule it on like a time basis, so like daily or weekly. Automations can have multiple actions that happen in a specific order, and they get triggered by the trigger sets off those actions. And those actions can then add or modify or delete other records in the app. They can run some of our what's called table-to-table imports. And so an example of how you might use the automations is like in a project management application. You might have a trigger whenever a new team member adds a new project to a projects table. Your project could then go add several default tasks to a task table that are associated with that project. So I hope that gives you a little clarity there.
Excellent. Thanks, Eric. And just a note, I've actually pushed the links out in the chat box or the questions box for our attendees today, so you can grab them and copy and paste them from there. Our next question, does QuickBase work with the Six Sigma processes? Eric?
Absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, well, Six Sigma, we can talk a lot about it here, and it definitely has its differences from Lean or Kaizen. QuickBase is a completely open platform, so you can build any business logic that you want. We actually got some world-class manufacturing customers that use QuickBase to manage their Six Sigma processes. So yeah.
Thank you. Next question, and do you have a mobile app?
Yes, we've got a mobile application you can download from the App Store or the Google Play Store, and it will actually work with any application you built right out of the box, no additional configuration required.
Thank you. Our next question, does QB have SSO/OKTA authentication?
Yes, it does. We do have single sign-on, and Okta is a partner we work with, and we do have done many successful Okta integrations.
Thank you. And the next question is, I think it's a follow-up. Are email notifications, are they sent through which service provider, ? And on whose name?
They are sent from a default as notify at QuickBase.com, kind of a default, and we use our own mail service for that. We've got our own internal architecture for all of our messaging services.
Thank you. Our next question, what type of data protection and security controls exist within QuickBase?
We're definitely SOC 2 compliant, and we meet a lot of other HIPAA requirements. I'm not probably the best one to answer all those security questions, but we could definitely follow up with one of our security experts and go through that with you.
Thank you, Eric. And just a reminder for those, if you do have any questions, to type them into the questions box. We did get a question about possibly sharing this recording, and this webinar, like all of Modern Analyst webinars, are recorded and posted on our website within 2 business days. Eric, our next question, does this work with SharePoint?
Yes. So QuickBase has a cloud-based REST API that can do integration with whatever data source you want. Depending on your level of expertise in development, there's different ways to go about that. There's integration platforms like Microsoft Flow that you can use. If you're actually a developer, have a development team, you can build different integrations. So really, QuickBase is kind of powerful because it's completely works in a no-code environment where you can actually build an application without having to do any syntax. But it's also low-code in the fact that if you do want to expand it beyond some of the capabilities we've got natively, you can bring your development team in to enhance the platform as well.
Thanks, Eric. Our next question, what kind of standard integrations exist to pull data into QuickBase applications or to export the information to other applications? For instance, if my company uses MailChimp to manage marketing emails, can I integrate with MailChimp directly with my QuickBase application? And if not, are there other standard application integrations, perhaps with Google applications?
Yeah, so directly, probably not. We typically require, a server that actually makes the API calls between the two platforms. So we don't have an integration layer built in. But we actually do have a partner company that we work with called Cloud Pipes. And that is a cloud integration service that would allow you to connect QuickBase with any of your enterprise applications.
Thank you, Eric. It looks like I have just one more question. If you do have any, please just submit them to the question box. Eric, how well would a QuickBase application work for comparing data set to another data set in order to remove duplicates, manage data conflicts, and then merge the data sets into a final clean list?
That's definitely a use case that we see quite a bit. Some kind of like some quasi data management or data warehouse techniques that you might use to get the data you want. Definitely, as an analyst, if you want some ways to automate some things that you can't quite do with Excel. Typically, we can solve those between our relationships and automation features.
Thank you, Eric. And it looks like that we've answered all the questions for today's session. As you can see on the website, in the attendee box, that you can also grab some of the links that they were showing on this page here. Eric, did you have any final words before I close down our session?
Just thanks to everybody for attending. I really appreciate it. And again, I hope you got something out of this, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Well, thank you, Eric, and thanks for everyone for attending today's Modern Analyst webinar. I'd like to remind everyone that today's webinar, along with the slides, will be archived at the ModernAnalyst.com website within a few days. And thanks. This concludes today's event. Have a great day.